What a terrible day this had been. Percival's mother had recalled him and his friends from playing in Stratholme's King's Square. First, that weakling Skull, the son of some wizard or other, failed to conjure up a sweetened mana bun for him, which of course earned him a sound beating at the hands of Percival and his friends. And now, Prince Arthas himself came to interrupt his free afternoon? Ridiculous. He boisterously announced to his fellow classmates that twerp Timmy would serve as the physical relief of their stress this afternoon, before heading off back home to the Shields and Maces store, the business of his parents. He entered, expecting his mother Lika to be in the kitchen preparing something to eat for lunch, but he found no one there, nor anything out of the ordinary. Hungry nonetheless, he began searching for food, quickly spying a half-finished loaf of bread on the counter in the middle of the room. Licking his lips, he decided this would have to do for now. He hungrily grasped the loaf and bit into it to find an unexpected sweetness gracing his senses. If there was one thing his mother was blessed with talent for besides smithery, it was her ability to pick out the best loaves of bread from the vendor. Finishing off the loaf, he continued the search for his missing mother, climbing the steps toward her bedroom. Approaching the door of the bedroom, a foul smell of sickness washed over him, and sure enough, he found his mother in bed, lying in a pool of sweat and vomit. He approached for an embrace, but his mother halted his advance, warning of the potential contagion her condition posed. Disheveled at this sudden turn of events, Percival asked meekly if there was anything he could do for his suffering mother. She gave him a warm smile, telling him that she was proud to have raised her son right. All she wanted of him was to stay away from any bread that came from the last shipment to Stratholme, as that might have been what caused her illness due to the bread tasting funny. Percival was to take some money and get his lunch at the fruit vendor instead. Suddenly stricken by fear, he nodded silently and ran out of the room, neglecting to mention the fact that he had already done just what she had warned of. Was he going to fall ill like his mother? If he did, Mother would be ever so livid. He needed to find help somewhere in the city. Running out of the armory, he found a large crowd waiting for the prince to arrive, and he could already hear the clamor of many hooves outside the gates. He needed to act fast. He started running back to King's Square, having to decline his friends calling him over from the other side of the street to find Timmy. He approached the fruit vendor's stand, his will to eat anything long gone, and asked for an apple as well as advice. As he handed over the money for the apple, he explained his mother's symptoms to the vendor, and she nodded in understanding, saying that several other people were suffering the same illness, reassuring him with a smile that a mere bug going round was to blame. That wasn't enough for Percival. Taking the apple, he ran back toward the armory, but stopped in his tracks to peek around the corner of the house at the end of the street, leading to the city gates. It was there that he spied Prince Arthas Menethil himself talking with another citizen, a few soldiers blocking any exit from the city. Then, something so improbable happened before Percival's very eyes, he believed he was dreaming. Prince Arthas raised his hammer and caved in the chest of the citizen he was talking to, only to then turn his weapon on the man's wife cowering before him. Percival felt sick to his core, and he couldn't tell if the reason was his presumed illness or not. Screams suddenly erupted from the crowd as a giant horned beast standing on two cloven hooves materialized in the middle of the street, mere steps away from the corner of the house he was crouched behind, flexed its mighty bat-like wings and introduced itself as Mal'Ganis. Percival was frozen in fear as he heard the monster declare its intention to snuff out the life of the entire city. How could this even be happening? Is Arthas helping this beast? Where are the knights? He could have sworn he heard many horses outside the gate beforehand. There was but one thing left he was sure of. He was definitely dreaming. Summoning all his willpower, he tore his gaze free from the gruesome sight before him and began running back to King's Square. He needed a place to hide. All around him, citizens fled in terror as some amongst them doubled over, their flesh beginning to rot and slough off their bones, before getting back up to ruthlessly assail their former neighbors, lovers, and relatives. He made it unscathed to Ezra Grimm's premium tobacco store and ran in to plead for safety from the famous entrepreneur, only to be forced back outside and have the door slammed shut before him. Looking around in desperation, he ran toward the fountain and hid inside. That was when an excruciating pain suddenly gripped his insides, and he lifted his hands into his vision to find his flesh beginning to molder and die. With tears streaming down his face and mixing with the fountain's water, he bothered not with the prospect of staying hidden, for he knew he was already dead. All he wanted was for it to end. He turned to see an armored female footman bearing the heraldry of Lordaeron slicing her way through the shamblers. He channeled his pain and shouted as loud as he could to grab her attention. The footman approached him, recognizing what was happening to him, and with an expression of pure disgust and self-hatred, she raised her blade. As Percival waited for the blow to end him, he thought back to the times him and his friends would chase each other through the streets of Stratholme. He wished he could go back and relive those beautiful moments, tour the city again, have one last go at Timmy. Everything suddenly went black. There was no fear, no feeling, nothing. For an unknown amount of time, Percival experienced naught but the bliss of oblivion, until that was one day shattered. A pain unlike any other ran him through like an ice pick in his brain, before fading once more as he attempted to open his eyes. One of his eyes opened, but the other seemed sewn shut. However, he still couldn't feel anything, so he couldn't really tell. What he saw from his singular working eye was a large dark hall filled with tiny people akin to toy soldiers milling about beneath him. As he began moving his arms, finding a cleaver in one hand and a meat hook in the other, he began hearing other voices whispering in his ear. Whatever that was, it was annoying him, and he felt the presence of these voices within his form, but he somehow knew he was stronger than those other people in his mind. He violently thrashed around his massive new form, forcing the voices from his mind, and incurring a fading cry of pain from them. He felt those voices retreating into different parts of his body. Subconsciously scratching his neck with his third arm he never noticed, he realized something that made his heart leap with excitement. Whoever made him anew had named him Patchwork, and there was a whole world out there with others that wanted to play with him. And more than anything at that moment, Patchwork knew he was ready to play.